At the moment, I've been chatting away. Might have had my mic on mute there, but I'll just say hello, welcome to all of you that are joining us from home or from maybe the office. Ruth is saying she can't. Ah, brilliant. Thanks, Ruth. Okay, I'm glad you can hear me. So, we are just asking everyone here in the room to have a sit. I'll just give you an idea of what is going on here in. Ooh, in the Scott Logic offices. So we've got everyone just sitting down and getting ready for the event. We are so chuffed that so many of you have joined us online, and I hope you have a really good time. We've got some fantastic speakers lined up for this evening. So we are going to get going in a moment. I am going to I've introduced you, I've introduced things. I'm going to leave you all now and we're going to get the show on the road. Please don't be afraid if you can't hear or see things, do tell me. There's two of us in the background here keeping an eye on things. We really want this experience to be good for those of you that are joining us remotely. So don't be afraid to let us know in the comments. But as I say, we're monitoring things as well. Okay, so I am going to go now and we will get the show on the road. Okay, thanks everyone.
Hello, hello, hello. Can everyone hear me, including, yeah, a bit higher, I think. Yeah, bit more? All good. He goes to concerts, so he likes it. And online okay? Hello, thank you so much for coming. I'm so sorry about the slightly late start. It's because I said it doesn't seem like anything's going wrong yet about half an hour ago, and I paid for that in full. But yeah, thank you so much for coming. It's always so great to see a room full of people because, as many of you know, we were online for such a long time that yeah, it's just really great to be able to share some drinks and some food and some space with people. So yeah, we really couldn't do these events, or yeah, these events wouldn't be what they were without everyone, both online and in person, coming along and supporting us. So really appreciate that, and we promise to make it worth your while with three fantastic speakers today. So right, so in case you hadn't realised, we are Green Tech Southwest. We have some wonderful sponsors who make it all possible. We are sponsored by AdLib, Crystal, The Discourse, we've got Ed here with us today, and Scott Logic as well, who give us this amazing space and yeah, just help us keep our cool. These are, yeah, we are your the co-founders of Green Tech Southwest. We'll chat to you all later. You don't need to know too much about us, but yeah, these are our faces and come say hi. Mike's at the back. We are also helped out by some wonderful people whose faces will also be recognisable in the room, and equally they very much contribute to us keeping a fairly cool head on the day. So yeah, give them a wave and say hi as well. Oh, sorry. So we've got Tim, we've got Tariq, we've got John, and then we've got Sam here. So thank you very much, guys. So yeah, so for those of you who are new, and I believe we do have some new faces, so firstly, welcome. Like I said, we are Green Tech Southwest. We aim to showcase a variety of people using tech to solve different sustainability problems using ingenious methods. We want to support a local community with an open and inclusive ethos. We don't have many rules, but the main rule is to, we just like to be nice to each other. We like to be open to other people's opinions, and and points of view. Obviously, sustainability and the climate are very emotive topics. So yeah, we just want to create a really nice space for everyone to discuss this and share new ideas. We do have a code of conduct and a constitution, which Hannah, they're available on our website, and also will be shared. Hannah will pop a link down in our comment section as well to access later. The wonderful Hannah has developed our website, greentechsouthwest.org. It has become an absolutely incredible resource of all of our past talks, both online and in person. So you can rewatch all of the videos that we have on there from previous talks, access any of the resources that were shared throughout as well, and speaker slides and 60-second intros and things like that. So do check it out. Yeah, we've had a real wealth of events, so it's definitely worth taking a look. We'll make sure the link is available at the end as well. I will also be putting up today's event over the next few days, so you can access that. We do want to make sure that these are that these events are, as like I said, inclusive as possible, and we want to make sure that you also, as the community, get your opportunity to shout something out if you have something, whether that's a project you're working on and you'd like to appeal to people to join, or if you just have something cool that you'd like to share that you think people might be interested in, now's your chance. We try to keep it to 60 seconds. But yeah, would anyone like to do a 60-second intro today? Tim, please do come up.
Hello. Yeah, so my name's Tim. I work here at Scott Logic, so welcome everybody to our office. Two projects I wanted to quickly talk about. One is an air quality dashboard that we've done, and there's posters about, so if you want more information, there's links on there. And this was to look at differences between forecast and actual. And if you look on the, it's quite a small graph, but you can actually see this massive spike in air pollution. And that's where we spotted the Independence Day fireworks. So that was, that was quite interesting. And yeah, and it's all open source, so there's documentation for that. And there's also the tech carbon standard that Scott Logic's been working with Hannah on. So that's modeling how to look at the emissions for your IT estate. And there's a calculator that we've done for that, just to help get going with a few key bits of information. And then that gives you sort of the relative areas where your emissions are coming from to help focus those efforts. Again, that's open source, and there's links on there. So yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tim. I'll make sure all the links you mentioned will be available at the end, and I will stop saying that. Anyone else like to, would you like to come up? Hiya.
Hello, everyone. I'm Ingrid. I work for a company called The Discourse. I'm here with Ed over there, who runs the agency. We're a branding agency, a proud B Corp, and we do a lot of work with charities and sustainable businesses. That's kind of our main client space, and we help them to define their messaging and their positioning and to really communicate the impacts that they're making. And we've learned an awful lot over the years from the clients that we've worked with in that space, and we're always happy to share our knowledge of how we've been able to help them. So if anybody wants to come and chat to me or Ed at the end, then feel free. Oh, and we're also sponsors of Green Tech Southwest as well. All right.
Thanks so much, Ingrid. Do we have any other takers? Yes, brilliant. And I saw you next as well.
Hello, my name's Stephen Shakespeare, and my company is Prospero Software Limited. So I work at the moment with 3 international charities. Started 3 years ago, helping a charity to implement SharePoint, and then I've moved on to help 2 more charities do the same thing. And I'm now building a projects and programs database to help charities track their projects, their spend, and across quite a number of countries. And I've brought in a part-time developer to help me do that. I'm a Microsoft independent software vendor, so Microsoft can help me put that in a box and do it again. So that's what I'm doing at the moment. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Thanks so much. I'll get your contact details as well. Lucy lined up. Okay. Do you want?
Hi, Lucy. But just give us a minute. You're not on the screen yet. Yeah, I'll tell you when to go. We're just doing some button fiddling back here. Okay, cool. So Lucy, you're on the screen here in the space.
That is a strange sensation. So should I speak now?
Give us a second. Sorry. Okay. Lucy, welcome. Over to you.
Thanks. So I'm Lucy. I work for a startup called NPK Recovery. So we are recovering nutrients from urine and turning them into a more sustainable fertilizer. And actually, at the moment, we're not using technology as much as I think we could. So this is really a shout out for anyone who's looking at, software that can do design experiments or could help us figure out ways to optimize our nutrient recovery. Because if we can't really optimize the recovery that we're currently getting from the urine, we're not probably going to get to market, and we're probably not really going to solve the problem of unsustainable fertilizers and all of the waste that we have. So this is, I guess, a plea if you're interested in helping us use technology to optimize what we're doing. Please look us up, NPK. It'd be really great to hear from you. That's it. That's the pitch.
Thank you so much, Lucy. I'm sure Hannah will pass on the thanks, and we will make her message clear to everyone. Thank you. Perfect. We have one more person in the room. Yeah, perfect. I'll just there we go.
Good evening. My name is Mark McGarity, and I work for no one at the moment. Today was my last day. Just wrapped up. So this is a request for help or guidance. I've spent a lot of time. I'm a chartered electrical building services engineer, but I've been spending a lot of time in tech. I've been going to lots of AI events. So I'm looking for help or guidance to kind of be like a bridge, because I think the tech world is missing quite a lot about building services, like, energy generation, the carbon, like, the tech standard they mentioned earlier. I was here for that talk. So I'm looking for help or guidance to maybe transition to a career for tech, or just a position where I can ask questions and get paid for it. That'd be great. Thank you.
So much. Right. I think we have one more person online. Okay. Lovely.
Hi everyone, good to see you. I'm Matt Keppel from Makeable. Makeable is an impact measurement platform. I've recently moved to Bath. We've worked with nonprofits in the past to help them measure their impact, and we were incubated by Friends of the Earth. But we've recently started looking at how our platform can be used in other ways for measuring impact, and also for looking at just tracking results of new ideas, innovations, experiments potentially. So if anybody's interested or needs a tool that's kind of an upgrade from spreadsheets for tracking the impact of things, and being able to set your own KPIs, set targets, and see how different activities are leading towards those results, then definitely have a chat, because we've also got a free version of our platform as well. So hopefully budget won't get in the way. Thanks. Take care.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Probably have time for one more, would we say? Yes. Hi. Or two more. Okay. Hi.
I was just going to make people aware, in case you weren't aware, that it is Everything Electric this weekend down at Farnborough, which is organised by the Fully Charged Show, who are based up in the Bristol Science Park, I believe. I'm not related with them in any way, but it is well worth a trip down there if you can make it. And I might have a couple of codes for tickets if anybody would like one. However, they're only, I think, £10 a ticket, so very achievable and well worth the trip.
Thank you. A great shout out and very nifty indeed. Well, there you go.
Quick one for me. I'm Joss from Enviral. We're on a mission to win the war on boring sustainability stories. We're a communications agency, do strategy, creative, and advertisement. And we're just starting to write an ethical AI policy and don't know where to start. So I'm sure this is the place to help here. Nice. So please come speak to me afterwards because I'm interested in ethical AI policies.
Thank you very much. And stuck to his word. He was quick. Brilliant. So I'll just get my slides back up quickly. Bear with me 2 seconds. Ooh. Bring that slide. Right, I might forego my slides for a second for the sake of everyone's sanity. Yeah, without further ado, super excited about today's event. It's our 4th event as part of Bristol Tech Fest, and we have some amazing speakers lined up. So first up, I'd like to welcome Annette Lamley from Centre for Sustainable Energy. Do bear with me 2 seconds while we just get the dreaded tech set up, and then yeah, we'll be with you.
Yeah. So why work on AI? Chris, I'm going to give it intro to thanks so much, Mary. Okay, I'll be able to give a bit of an intro to how AI work before passing back to
Great. Thank you, Ellen. Can you hear me okay? Is that picking up all right? Great. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name's Annette. I work for an organization called the Centre for Sustainable Energy, or CSE. I realize that probably quite a few of you will never have heard of us before. So before I start talking about the Solar Wizard, I thought I'd spend a few minutes just telling you a bit more about who we are and the kind of work that we do. I hope I can use this. Oh, good. So we are a charity. We're based in Bristol and we've been around for somewhere in the region of 45 years. We have a charitable mission to tackle the climate emergency and end the suffering caused by cold homes. So everything we do is intended to contribute to one or ideally both of those aims. We have 3 operational teams. So our largest team is our household energy services team, and they provide energy advice and retrofit advice to households. We also have a local and community empowerment team, and they do a lot of outreach work on community-based projects. And then we have the research team, which is the team that I'm in. So we have social researchers, we have technical consultants, and we also have a number of analysts and software engineers. So across the organisation as a whole, I think we've got quite a good mix of skills, and we do get to work on some pretty interesting and cool projects. So aside from the Solar Wizard, I've just put a few other project examples on this screen. Not going to go through them all, don't worry. I just thought they might be a bit of kind of useful context. But at any one time, we normally have in our team somewhere between like 15 to 20 projects ongoing. We don't have any core funding, so all of our work is funded through the projects that we work on. So it's either for clients or it's through supported by grant funding. I am going to put out the 2 images on the right. These are 2 examples of recent projects that we've worked on that are kind of within the tech space, I guess. So the one at the top is from our national zoning model, which is a project that we're working on for the Department for Energy Security and Net Zero. Always get that wrong. And the work is intended to support the work that they're doing on identifying areas for heat zones. So the model kind of evaluates heating system options. So whether that's like a low carbon heat network or an air source heat pump, for example. And it combines spatial data with assumptions on technology performance and cost. So I think it's Coventry in this map. And then the bits that are coloured in orange are the areas that we think heat zone policies might be like the most viable and cost effective. The one underneath is an extract from our impact tool, which is a community carbon calculator that we worked on with the University of Exeter. You can go in, you can type in like your local ward or your parish, and it will give you it will tell you how big your local carbon footprint is. It will break it down into different categories, so like sources of emissions, and then you can compare it to other places. So the idea really is that it tells you kind of what kind of projects might have the most impact in your specific area. Yeah, so hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea about who we are and what we're about. So Solar Wizard, I'm going to start by telling you why we built it, what the problem was that we were trying to solve, and then I'll show you what it looks like, tell you how it works, roughly, and how you can use it. So we know that there's huge potential out there for increasing generation of renewable power at a local level with rooftop PV. But at the moment, it's just that potential is just not really being realised, and it needs to if we're going to meet our local and our national carbon targets. So in order to promote greater take-up, we believe that households want access to quick and independent estimates for viability of PV on their own roofs. We think that community groups want to be able to find like the roofs with the greatest potential in their local areas, and the local authorities want to understand kind of the scale of the contribution that rooftop PV might be able to make to their climate emergency responses. So we know that there are other people out there doing similar things. We're not the only people working in this space. So the specific niche, I guess, that we wanted to fill was that we wanted to make something that was independent and not linked to any commercial interests. So you don't need to sign up. You don't need to, share your contact details. You're not going to get sales calls if you're not ready for that kind of thing yet. We also wanted to make something that didn't mean that the user had to do a lot of work. So we didn't want them to have to kind of make their own estimates for how big their roof is or what overshadowing might be like throughout the year. So we wanted it to be kind of quick and low effort. We also didn't want it to be too localized. So some of the tools that are out there might be kind of specific to one city, and we wanted to make something that was a bit more broadly applicable. And then finally, the idea was that we wanted to make it to be free to as many people as we could. Yes. So, before I move on, I should say that we didn't make the Solar Wizard entirely on our own. So we had a couple of project partners, and we also had a really engaged advisory board. So we had people from local government and central government, academia, and also the community energy sector. So our first project partner is Bath and West Community Energy, and they are another not-for-profit organisation. They have a focus on developing clean energy projects that benefit communities in and around the city of Bath. And our second partner is Share Energy, who are also working to grow the community energy sector in the UK. And they support communities to develop their own projects through the provision of advice on things like site finding, business planning, and that kind of thing. And they also run the Big Solar Co-op. I got that right? Yeah, so whilst we kind of led the project, it wouldn't be anywhere near as good without their kind of on the ground experience and expertise. So this is what the Solar Wizard looks like, and we used funding from Innovate UK's Open Digital Solutions programme to make it, as well as some of our own charitable reserves. We launched it, I think it was in June, so it's not been out for very long. The tool has two different interfaces. So it's got one interface that is intended for use by people who want information for one specific building, so like their own home. And then we have another one that's map-based and that you can use to look at lots of different buildings across a whole area at the same time. And the reason for that is largely to do with data licensing, which is something that I'll come back to in a bit. So you can, this is the household or individual building interface. So you can go into this, you can type in any address in England, Scotland, or Wales. And then if the data's available, then it brings up a screen like this one on the right-hand side. So this is my local Sainsbury's supermarket. If you live in South Bristol, might be familiar. So you probably can't see the size of the screen, but you've got kind of headline rating that tells you how good the tool thinks your roof is. So that's based on estimated yield, which is kilowatt hours over kilowatt peak. And then underneath that, we have estimates for the power that you could generate, the money that you could save, how much it might cost you, the payback period, and also how much carbon you might save per year. And then just underneath, you have the outline of the building, and you've got the different, like the best roof planes highlighted. And you can click between those different panes and get a kind of per array breakdown. And here you can also get figures for like the aspect, the scope, the slope, sorry. You can also get kilowatt hours generated by month, and there's a shading profile as well. And I couldn't fit it on the slide, but if you scroll down a little bit further, there's also a kind of a really basic cost calculator. So you can kind of amend the parameters that are in there. You can give it like a specific electricity retail cost or export price. You can say roughly how much energy you think you use in a year, and what your usage profile might look like, and it will amend the figures accordingly. And that data is from MCS, the Microgeneration Certification Scheme, so it is based on costs from real installations. This is our map-based interface, and we have made this as a kind of paid-for service for local authorities, again, largely due to the data licensing. And in this case, this is the one that we made for Birmingham City Council. It is public-facing. It's like exactly the same data, but just presented differently. And if you click on any one of those buildings, you'll just get exactly the same information that you had before. So as well as being able to pan around manually and looking for the areas with like potentially the greatest yield, we also have a couple of additional layers that you can overlay. So we have listed buildings in here, we have conservation areas, and they're just intended to kind of give you a bit of an indication of areas where there might be additional restrictions that might affect whether or not you're allowed to put rooftop PV on your building. There's also a couple of filters in there, so you can say, like, only show me the roofs that are capable of hosting an array of X kilowatts, or a minimum yield of whatever. There's also a local authority login button at the top right. This is specifically for local authority staff or any of their project partners. It could be community groups or anyone else they want to sign a data sharing agreement with. So if you log into that, you get access to a couple of additional features. So you can select groups of buildings at the same time. You can run a more detailed financial model, and you can also export the data to a CSV file so you can analyze it outside of the tool. So it's got things like coordinates and stuff in there, so you could plot it in GIS and do your own kind of overlay analysis or whatever. So methodology. So this is the methodology that we've used for the tool is based on a model that we've been using for a few years now in the kind of consultancy work that we do for local authorities. So things like renewable energy resource assessments or local area energy planning projects. In terms of exactly how it works, I am going to read my notes because I always get this wrong. So first of all, the tool models horizons. So it uses LiDAR data for this. So the model kind of builds a horizon profile for each point of LiDAR data within the footprint of the building. And this is the horizon height in degrees from horizontal, like in a ring. So it's kind of like if you went up on the roof and you reported how much sky you could see in each direction. Next, it detects roof planes. So for each building, the model detects the various roof planes that make up the roof of the building using a modified version of the random sample consensus or RANSAC algorithm. So for example, it would detect one plane on a flat roof, it would detect two on a roof with gables, or four on a building with a hipped roof, for example. And the higher the resolution of the LiDAR data, the more accurate that is. So this tells us the size and the compass orientation of each potential point, each potential PV panel site on each building. Next, we exclude unsuitable roof sections. So roof sections can be excluded for a number of different reasons. So they might be too north facing, they might be angled too steeply, they might be too overshadowed, or they might just be too small for a useful installation. Then we calculate PV energy output, and we use a tool called PVGIS for this. So the PV energy output of the installation with a given location, size, compass orientation, and horizon model is calculated. And this includes modeling losses due to things like temperature, reflection, solar spectrum, and things like cabling and inverters. We then perform a cost-benefit analysis. So the net present value and the internal rate of return are calculated for each potential PV installation for each building. We did try and use open data wherever we could. So for example, the LiDAR data is openly available from the Environment Agency, but we did have one exception. So we did use Ordnance Survey, a couple of different Ordnance Survey premium data sets. So we've used OS master map topography for the building polygons, so like the outlines. And we've also used their address-based premium product for our in the map-based interface. The data licensing has it limits what data we can share with who. So we can only make the map available when we're working with a public sector body. It's been kind of the bane of my life, well over a year now. It's been quite challenging to navigate, but OS have been really helpful in helping us find ways around things, limiting our liabilities and the royalties that we might need to pay, and hopefully stopping us from bankrupting ourselves. Yeah. Also, shout out to our OS account manager, James, who has just been the best. We did look for alternative data sets, like open data sets that we could use instead. Didn't really find any that had such good coverage. So we tried to use OpenStreetMap, for example, which is pretty good. But I've added this map on the right-hand side of this slide. This is Weston-super-Mare. And the buildings that you can see in red are the ones that show in both data sets, and the ones that you can see in blue only show up in the Ordnance Survey data. So you can imagine, like, if this is everywhere in the country, it's just not really, it's not great coverage. But this was also, we did make this last year, so it might be much better now. And we should probably go back and have a look and see if we can switch it out at some point. So I've added a slide on strengths and limitations, mainly just because I think it's good to be really clear about what the tool can do and what it definitely can't do. So the first one on here, basically it is a model. So it's an educated guess. It's in no way intended to be like a substitute for an in-person building survey. It's just like a first port of call to give you an indicative figure. Data licensing, I think I've already covered. The LiDAR coverage is a big one for us. So in some areas, LiDAR coverage is brilliant. In Birmingham, for example, it's something like 96% of all buildings. I think in Bristol, it's something similar to that, but it's not the case everywhere. Some places are really quite terrible, and our tool can't work without the LiDAR data. So there's areas where there's just gaps. So if you live in Thornbury, really sorry, it just doesn't work for you. Not all the buildings have unique postal address. So this is not something that's an issue in the map-based interface, but in the individual building interface, you can only search for buildings that have an address. So if you've got something like a farm, for example, where you've got a main building that's got an address and then a load of outbuildings, and it's probably only going to pick up that main one building. Or like a school, for example, it's probably not going to pick up every building on that site. We're also unable to assess roof materials or condition, although I heard recently that OS might be releasing a data set early next year that might help us a bit with this, but I don't know enough about it to know if that's true. I guess we'll find out. And then finally, the financial model is quite basic at the moment. So we thought about making something really kind of technically comprehensive, but we also just wanted to make something that most people could actually use. Yeah, but these are all things that we'd like to improve at some point. They're all on our list for when we get more funding, basically. So yes, the individual building interface is live. As I say, it's been live since June. The map interface for Birmingham, Bristol, South Gloss and North Somerset are already live. I don't think we have quite got to the point where we linked them from the front page, the landing page yet. So you might have to type in like solarwizard.org.uk/Bristol because our main software engineer is in the south of France right now instead of here. So when he gets back, that is his first job. So yeah, please do take a look if you're interested. We'd be really interested in any feedback. We've got a project-specific email address that you can use on here, or you can just email me directly. My email address is on the last slide. We do already have quite a long list of things that we'd like to do to improve the tool, but always interested in new good ideas. And just as a last point, we have made the code for the underlying model available on our GitHub account under the reciprocal public license. So if you think you can make use of it, then please do. It's just the code for the model. It's not the code for the web app or the data sets, obviously. But yeah, if you do make use of it, then please do let us know. We'd love to hear about it. Yeah, I think that's me. So thank you very much for listening, and thank you for inviting me as well. Really looking forward to hearing from Friends of the Earth.
Thank you so much, Annette, for a very, very interesting talk. And yeah, sorry to everyone in Thornbury. Can we give it one more round of applause for Annette, please? Thank you so much. So yeah, next up we have two speakers from Friends of the Earth. We've got Mary Stevens and Christian Graham. Just while we get them all set up, do help yourself to a drink, or if there's any food left, swing by that station too. And yeah, we'll be joined very shortly. Hello, hello. Hope we're all refreshed for our next set of talks. If you could all find your way back to your seats. Yes. Are we getting questions? It isn't. Okay. We can pick that up. So without further ado, please welcome Mary Stevens and Christian Graham. We will be able to get Graham's face up, Christian's face up in a little bit. Here you go. Big round of applause, please.
Hi. I just want to start by saying a big thank you to the Green Tech Southwest team for having us here. I've been on your side of the room a few times, so it's a real privilege to be up here and talking about the work that we do. And I recognise also we've brought you an extra tech challenge by having someone joining from North Wales. So I'm really very grateful for your support. Thank you. Yeah, pushing your comfort zone every time. So my name's Mary. I use she, her pronouns, and I co-lead our experiments team at Friends of the Earth with my colleague Christian. Sure, I can move to the next. Okay. So you might be thinking, what is this? So I am talking about AI, but what you can see on your screen is a horse and cart. And you might be thinking, what have a load of glass bottles and a horse and cart? What has that got to do with AI? I can see some nod from Martin at the back of the room, who I think possibly knows. Because back in the 1970s, our predecessors here at Friends of the Earth Avon were green technology pioneers. And their work in prototyping the UK's first doorstep recycling collections, not just with horses and carts, but also with repurposed milk floats, so the EVs of their day, you might realise, led ultimately not just the legislation that put in place the services that I think we all take for granted now around doorstep recycling, but also, sorry, I'm just trying to figure out my notes. Yeah, thank you. But also to the creation of local enterprises. Many of you will know things like Resource Futures, who are still a cutting edge circular economy business here in the Southwest. And it's also really great to be sharing this platform with the Centre for Sustainable Energy, because Friends of the Earth Avon, as it was, and the Centre for Sustainable Energy very much grew out of the same innovation and tech ecology in the 1970s here in Bristol, worked very closely together on a number of projects, including setting up the Create Centre, for example. And I think, what I want to say here is that I think Green Tech Southwest and the wider sustainable tech ecosystem actually are very much inheritors of that same energy for practical values-led innovation. And I hope we'll be able to explore today how we're taking some of this same mindset into our thinking about today's technology challenges, in particular AI. So back to the present day. So a little bit about us and who we are. So Christian and I are half of the Friends of the Earth experiments team, and our team comprises expertise in different areas. Christian and I lead between us on ideation, systems thinking, and prototyping. Our colleague Mandy is our coordinator, and our colleague Joanna to help make sure that we tell great stories about what we're doing. And together we aim to create a fertile ground for innovation and creativity. Many of you also will probably know about Friends of the Earth. You might know the name, but you might not know exactly what we do. So we're actually Friends of the Earth, England, Wales, and Northern Ireland here. Someone was asking me today, how many people is that roughly? It's in the order of 150 people. There are about 12 of us in Bristol in a range of different roles, a bit more in the Southwest in general. So we are, in fact, however, the world's largest grassroots environmental campaigning organisation, and we design justice-centred and inclusive campaigns with the most at-risk communities. And a really important thing to say that links into our AI work is that we have a two-pronged theory of change. So we know that we need to combine kind of high-level interventions, things like our legal work. Here we are outside the High Court, not for the first time, with supporting grassroots groups. And that's an approach that we've taken into our AI work. So we work from the top and from the bottom to make change. In our team, we have a mission, which I think is quite simple. So our team's mission is about doing now what our communities need next. What does this mean in practice? Well, it means if we're going to drive the green and fair transformation for people and planet that we need experimental approaches. And our goal as a team is to equip Friends of the Earth and the wider environmental justice movement with the tools and the mindset to explore this kind of unpredictable context and identify some of these innovative solutions. So we explore problems, identify where a small intervention might be able to make a big difference. And from that, we try to nurture a portfolio of projects that bring to life the future we need to grow. And we've worked on topics from things like how to double tree cover, including using some interesting digital mapping in this area, to urban greening, innovative approaches to nature engagement. This is a image from a project we work with in Kingswood, the Made Forever Community Hub, but also climate impacts of personal finance, and of course AI. And I'm now going to hand over to Christian, through the magic of technology, all the way from North Wales, who is going to tell you a little bit more about the context of our AI work.
Oh, thanks so much for that, Mary. Even though I'm in North Wales, I feel like I'm fully grounded in the Southwest now. I'm going to spend a little time introducing our AI work. So let's go on to the next slide. Oh, are we swapping over technology? Okay, that's good. All good. That was a short rehearsal. So. Great. Yeah, thanks again, Mary. Even though I'm in North Wales, I feel fully grounded. Oh, okay. Let me know when I should go.
Good to go, Christian.
Oh, thanks so much. And thank you, Mary, as well, for that lovely introduction. Even though I'm in North Wales, I feel like I've been fully grounded in the Southwest now. So I'm going to spend a little time introducing our AI work. And if we can go to the next slide when you're ready. So why does an organisation like Friends of the Earth work on AI anyway? So we recognised as early as 2018, during our first deep dive into AI, that it was likely to be a majorly disruptive force in the world. And so it's proved. Just from an environmental justice perspective, we're seeing impacts ranging from a massive growth in AI-related carbon emissions to accelerating the spread of scientific disinformation. It also lacks diverse perspectives, and civil society needs to engage in order to avoid perpetuating current social and environmental injustices. We also felt, and still do, that there is a chance to influence its trajectory for good. We should all have a say about its future development, not just a few billionaires. And when it comes to using it, we need an approach which draws upon the mythical centaur for inspiration. The best application of AI is one that combines the unique qualities of both human and machine. We can go to the next slide when you're ready. There are two strands to our AI work, and together they feed into our guiding star. Our guiding star is that we want a system of generative AI that is aligned with the needs of humans and other living beings to create the conditions for healthy flourishing for all. And to achieve it, as Mary was hinting at earlier, we think it looks like working from both the top down, in other words, influencing the space for the better, but also the bottom up, engaging and surfacing community voices in AI. Let's pop on to the next slide. And here's an example of an early piece of work that we did. So we, together with WWF, convened a working group composed of international NGOs and UN organisations which met in Geneva back in April earlier this year to try and answer two questions. What does responsible use of AI in our organisations look like? And how can we help our organisations have the crucial conversations that they need to have about shaping its future? A key learning: One of the simplest things you can do if you work in an organization is ask about the environmental impact of AI during any procurement process. Let's go on to the next slide. We've also run some well-received workshops with Cambridge data scientist students around bringing a wider range of environmental ethics viewpoints into their work to help shape the leaders of tomorrow. They were case study based, with students using a variety of tools such as pre-mortem, futures wheels, and design thinking to navigate ethical dilemmas relating to the environment and AI. Let's pop on to the next slide. We're also conducting 2 pieces of work to try and shape the policy agenda. We were awarded a grant via the Green Screen Coalition as part of the Catalyst Fund, which is in turn funded by the Mozilla Foundation, to create a policy position for the environmental justice sector. The aim is to create a shared set of principles and best practice guidelines, and they will be informed by voices from our international network. We want to bring more visibility to the ways in which our choices around AI can also have global impacts on things like supply chains. We want to answer the question, what does responsible AI look like in our sector? And what are the conditions that need to be in place for this? Alongside this, we're also working with careful industries to try and identify some short to medium term interventions we might make in the UK space. Let's get to the next slide. Oh, Mary's ahead of me now. This is great. And thinking beyond AI, we can imagine there will be an array of similarly disruptive technologies emerging, which are either adjacent to it or otherwise standing on its shoulders. Technologies like quantum technology and humanoid robots. And so we've drafted some principles for working with technology. Underpinning all of these are some questions around how can we be more mindful about our use of technology? How can we play a part in shaping its future? How can we assure all voices, including those of the non-human, are represented? And what does a better vision for human and planetary flourishing in the context of these technologies look like? Before I hand back to Mary, I just want to give a tip of the hat to Hannah Smith of the Green Web Foundation, not just for being a wonderful moderator and looking after us, but also for her input into these. So thank you again, Hannah, and now back to Mary.
So while we're talking about out the slide sharing, as I said at the start, we have a 2-pronged theory of change that applies to our AI work as well. So Christian's been talking mostly about our kind of influencing work, and I get the joy of saying a little bit about our grassroots work and some of our practical experiments. Yeah, in the context of AI, I like to think about this as adopting kind of a slightly messy, we call a protopian approach. This is an idea that we've drawn from the work of the creative technologist Abdo Hassan, but he talks about resisting both the kind of utopian trends in AI, like it's going to save the world and fix the climate, and the dystopian extreme, which is, killer robots and all the rest. And actually, we think there is a fertile, messy middle ground to explore. So, and that's what our kind of practical work is about, because we think there are lots of ways in which AI technologies could unlock the creativity and capabilities of people taking action together in their local neighborhoods, from more inclusive public consultations to visualizing climate positive futures. I'm going to give a few examples in the next slide. It's going to be next few slides. It's going to be a bit of a whistle-stop tour. So first up is our Community Action Lab, which we ran earlier this year. And I'm really delighted that we've got Ruth, who is one of our participants, on the call. So the idea here is that we wanted to find a way to unlock community-based uses for people who wanted to use AI in their to address their local environmental challenges. One thing I'm really worried about, actually, is that grassroots activists will just kind of reject AI, particularly as we're seeing a lot of more information about environmental impacts and so on. And actually, I think that just leaves the field much more open to capture by big tech and makes campaigners and the causes they care about also much more vulnerable to exploitation. So our aims in running this kind of prototype lab were to shape how people in communities kind of talk about AI, ideally to generate at least one kind of fundable prototype for a community-based project, and to empower the participants to grow their confidence to talk about AI and use it in their work. I think we'd certainly achieved the latter. It was very, the feedback from our participants about this experience actually being really liberating and transformative was really powerful. The prototypes, it's a bit harder to gauge the real impact, and they're still very much in the development stage. I don't think we quite kind of gave them enough time with people doing this kind of in their free time. They were really interesting. They included a litter picking app. They included workshops taking an idea that Ruth, who's on the call, had about a snail bot using robotics and AI to kind of increase access to nature for people with accessibility issues. And we're still working with her, thinking about how she might turn those into some workshops with Knoll West Media Centre, which is really exciting. So there were some great prototypes, but there's still more work to do, I think, on those. And I think, a question for us was also, how could we scale this? How could we involve more people in this kind of approach without losing the human touch? And also, make sure that our activists actually keep up with AI developments in what's a very kind of fast-moving world. One way in which we are supporting our, trying to change the slides. Okay. Linked to this topic of empowering people, and one thing that we're trying to do is also just engage our network with AI kind of challenges and opportunities. This is a talk that we're doing coming up in November because we are a network of around 200 local groups. You can see where they are on the map. And so this event is the second in a series just to actually have some of that debate out there in a more informed way. And we've also, there are a whole load of areas where we'd like to see AI applied to address our fractured politics and empower grassroots activism. This slide shows some of the ideas we have been exploring or are currently exploring. The image on the bottom right comes from some work that I did with Bristol University Bristol University Centre for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, where I set a brief for their students about how to raise awareness of the environmental impacts of AI amongst that cohort of students, because in many ways they're the kind of power users of the future. And most of them, it wasn't on their radar at all. And this was the idea that I liked best, actually, which was, it's basically, it's a kind of, you've got a chat GPT screen, and the more time you spend on it, the more it fills up with water through the tap, which I really like. It's quite simple, it's quite visually effective, and it just brings that to life. So yeah, I'm also really keen on the idea of developing AI assist for people responding to planning consultations. That's a big part of our work. We get a lot of people in touch with us about planning applications. And if anyone's ever tried to wade through a planning application, the hundreds of pages that are involved in, maybe the question that you have as an activist is, what does this mean for wildlife? Or, what does this mean for traffic? And it's really hard to get to the bottom of that if you're not a planning expert. And so you could really see how AI could be a really valuable tool in that synthesis work. And I think as the renewable energy infrastructure revolution gains pace, the kind of things that Annette was talking about, planning is going to be a big, if not the big site of kind of contention in the next few years, as we try to seek to balance all those different needs of kind of residents, industry, energy generation, etc. And I think, there's a real role for AI, and I like to think about it as kind of democratizing access to some of those specialisms, especially where those specialisms are quite expensive. Yeah, there's other stuff on here as well. We're a very tiny team with a very tiny budget. We don't have the resources to work on any of these ourselves at the moment. But we'd love to see them take off. So we're very much open to collaborations, particularly if anyone has an idea about how to access any funding. And we're happy to work with people on funding applications and to partner on that. So if you're looking at something like that and thinking, oh, that's interesting, please do come and have a chat with me afterwards, or come and find me another time. I'm only based around the corner from here, so I'm very open to having, coffees in Bristol to talk about any of this. I'd love to see some of these take off. Okay, very nearly there. Okay, so yes, that kind of flows on to what next and how you can get involved. So yes, you know, we're really reliant on people like you to kind of amplify our work and our message. So if there is something that you've heard just a brief snippet about and would like to come and talk about, then, you know, great, come and have a chat and come and talk to me. Obviously, sign up for and share our upcoming events. That's what that QR code is. We also have lots of data. You know, maybe there's something cool that you would like to do with it. So, for example, last month, we published research that found that more than 1 in 4 neighborhoods have air, water, noise, and light pollution levels that are harmful to nature, what we're calling pollution hotspots. Could you think of an application that could do something with that data? You know, if you do, again, have a think and come and have a chat. And also, I think really importantly, please do look out for our upcoming report, the Green Screen Catalyst funded work, the recommendations we're going to be publishing in January. We really want that to become the go-to reference for environmental justice and other campaigning organizations thinking about how should we think about AI. And we're really going to want people to kind of share those, adopt those. That's going to be super important. You know, and lastly, 2 things. One, you know, we are an organization, we are almost entirely reliant on donations. We work with responsible purpose-led businesses who are committed to making a positive impact in the world. If that sounds like you, hopefully it does, because you wouldn't be at Green Tech Southwest if you weren't. You can find out more about our partnerships with the QR code on the top right. And of course, we also, you know, rely on donations from thousands of individuals, people just like you. So if you like what you've heard about our work, think it's kind of quite unusual, because I think it's quite unusual. I'm very proud of what we do, and I think it's quite unusual within this sector. So do consider, you know, becoming a donor. That could be a one-off donation, or even better, a regular contribution. So that's it, but thank you very much for the opportunity.
So thank you so much, Mary, and thank you so much, Christian, who we will be making slightly less mysterious in about a few minutes. We'll do a quick, sorry, can I actually have one more round of applause for Friends of the Earth? Right, we'll have time for a little Q&A now. So we'll just get that set up, and yeah, you have the opportunity to ask any questions to our speakers. Yes, Christian, we'll get him involved. Give me 2 secs.
Hello. Sorry, there's a slight technical fault with my voice. I'm sorry about that. So yeah, we're going to get Annette and Mary sat here. Sorry. Thank you very much. And I'm in the way. Cool. So we'll take some questions from the room. You can either shout it really loud, or you can come up and talk into the mic. It's completely dependent on where you're sat. And we'll take some questions from online if there are any. So yeah, cool. Does anyone have any questions? Ed, is it coming up? It's a bit easier, yeah.
Thanks, Mike. Actually, throw someone. It's a question for Mary and Christian, but I guess yeah, you can all answer. Christian mentioned that, or he said that we should all be asking questions about the environmental impact of AI, which I absolutely agree with. Does anyone currently have the answers to those questions? And in your experience, are they prepared to share that information, even if they know the true environmental impacts?
Chris, do you want to take this one, or shall I take this one? I'll go on this one.
You want to start,
maybe.
and then I can finish if necessary, or add some builds.
Oh, we can't hear him. Okay. So yeah, that's a great question. And this is one of the things that we're looking into. The short answer is no, not really. As far as I understand it, and I'm not an expert in this area, I think it's moving forward all the time, which is really good. I mean, actually, our colleagues and friends of the US have actually done quite a lot of work in trying to push this up the agenda. They've been lobbying the Senate. They published some work that was also like shared in the Guardian and stuff back in the spring, and we can share that report with you. It's really kind of keeping out the pressure. And there are people like, organizations like Hugging Face and stuff are thinking more and more about, so there's more stuff coming out all the time. I think there's a couple of things. One is that by keeping on asking the question, that creates a demand for the answer that's really important. And even if people can't answer the fact that you're asking, it's a bit like ethical finance. It's the same thing. Often it's like, what's the green investment? Or at least you're challenging it. And the other thing is, hopefully, there are definitely some sort of reporting. I think there are some quite significant reporting loopholes in terms of, what people are expected, what tech companies are expected to report in relation to AI use compared to what, many of you will be having to report in your sustainability reporting all the time. That might be the sort of thing that we'll be highlighting in our upcoming policy paper that will set out some recommendations, hopefully.
Do you have anything to say on that, Annette? No? No, okay. Cool. Any other questions from the room? Just it.
On that same subject of the environmental impact of AI usage, I went to a talk on Monday, and she made a claim, which I don't know if it's true, and your water tool kind of ties into it. She made the claim that if we use a Google search, it requires 5 milliliters of water. But if we ask the same question to ChatGPT, it uses half a liter of water, which seems absolutely ridiculous. So do you think that's a feasible thing?
That's a finding that has been quite widely shared, and a lot of people are quite familiar with. And I know, actually, I think Hannah's referenced this in previous work as well. I do think that's. I am not an expert on this, but I do think it's plausible. I think and that water usage is in cooling, right? So that water usage is in cooling data centers, and I think one of the really tricky things here is that not only a lot of these data centers, they're very water and energy intensive. They're also often, sometimes ironically, to make the most of the solar energy opportunities, are being built in some of the most water stressed parts of the world, which is incredible, which is really pretty terrifying, actually. So it's not just about how much water, it's about water justice and who has access to that water in those places as well.
Okay, I don't know if you can see that at the back, but Chris says it varies, but the magnitude of the difference sounds about right. Thanks for that, Chris. Any other questions in the room? Yeah, do you mind?
Yeah, thank you for Mary and your colleague. So you've done some very interesting work here at Friends of the Earth, England, Wales, Northern Ireland. Have you connected to some of the work that's been done across Europe about the impact of AI and things like smart cities? So, for instance, I was involved in a charter for the smart city that the Green European Foundation developed 2 or 3 years ago. And it was about the social and environmental values and principles to incorporate the challenges, which is exactly what you've kind of encouraged. So the charter for the smart cities would be kind of extend it to applying stuff in cities, in communities, and who gets involved, who has access to the data. Do you have recourse to a human being if there's a machine answering your, judging your application for something, and so on. So just thinking that would be useful if you haven't come across that. And secondly, locally, the Bristol Just Transition Declaration, which again is a set of principles to incorporate the voice of the people who have least access to sort of power and sort of influence, to make sure they're involved in the start of projects. But it sounds like you're doing some really important work. So I look forward to seeing those findings. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. I believe there's a question online. You go to the Q&A bit on, are you controlling this? Thanks, Sam. Question mark.
seeing it. Yeah, okay. Question for Annette. I love Solar Wizard. Seems like a very useful tool, and I'm glad it's open source. Obviously, it can only provide estimates and is no substitute for site assessments by experts. Any data on how well it trends to predict the outcomes of those assessments? How big are the error bars, and does it tend to be biased up or down? That's from Alex. I think there was 2 questions.
Great question. We have looked at that. I can't remember the error bars off the top of my head. We did validation against data from, I think it was pvoutput.org. I can certainly get the numbers and share them if people would like me to. So that was the main validation that we did. We also tested it with our first user partners based on data that they had from all of the different projects that they've worked on, the community-based projects, and also data from our retrofit team as well. And a lot of people have emailed us with similar questions. So we have data from lots of keen people as well.
Thank you very much for that. Do we have time for one more? Yeah. Any other questions from the room? Tim?
Yeah, another question for Annette. Yeah, the Solar Wizard tool looks really good. I was just wondering where the LiDAR data comes from. Processors for getting that.
They've got a digital surface map available just from the Environment Agency. So you can if you just go on their website, you just search for LiDAR, and there's different resolutions. So that's like 1 meter and 5 meter resolution. It's the 1 meter one that we use.
Do you know where that data comes from?
Oh yeah, it's flood risk mapping data. So they do, I think they fly planes around with lasers, and yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah.
Awesome, that sounds good. Any other questions in the room? Yeah, would you mind coming up? Sorry.
This one's a bit more of a philosophical question. You mentioned very briefly that you were considering non-human rights with regard to AI. Have you decided where the lines would be between a series of numbers and something that can be considered to have rights?
Good luck.
Chris, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, I'll take this one. Can everybody hear me? Yep. Okay.
So yeah, do you want to talk now, Chris?
Okay. Can you hear me now? Yes? No? Okay. Great. Excellent. So yeah, this is really tricky. It's I think I've been handed this one because it's kind of a emerging interest for me, in that one of the, and I'm probably not going to answer it directly, but one of the projects I came across quite early on when I was doing a deep dive into AI was something called the Earth Species project or something like that, or earthspecies.org or something like that. But one of the things they're trying to do is basically create large language models for communicating with other species like corvids and whales and others. And for me, when I started to think about this, I started, and I remember very early on doing a futures wheel exercise with some of my colleagues about sort of what might it mean if we could talk to lots of other species, and it went to some pretty weird places, like places like around consent. Again, I ran a similar exercise. It was one of the ethical dilemmas actually we talked about in with the Cambridge students as well. And there were things like coming up, topics like gaslighting and stuff like that were coming up as well. So And I think this is part of the reason for wanting to expand the notion or get people to think about more wider environmental ethical viewpoints beyond sort of kind of, mostly which two prevailing ones seem to be sort of kind of utilitarianism and anthropocentrism, which is, where we basically kind of put human, the human perspective first, and I think for me, we as an organization have got to do a lot more thinking about this. And, I would not claim to represent Friends of the Earth's view here. I suspect mine is probably a little bit out there. But I think we could be looking at sort of kind of the beginnings of new frontiers of environmental justice. And I will leave it at that.
Thank you very much. I think, are we just about done? Yeah, I think we're done. So yeah, can we have another round of applause to Annette and Christian and Mary? Thank you very much. Two fantastic talks. So we really appreciate you giving up your time. And thank you to all of you for coming. Yeah, as Ellen said earlier, we don't run these events without having that kind of support, and we're really proud of the community that we have. So yeah, we really appreciate it. We will be heading over to Left-Handed Giant. Tariq at the back will give you a wave. He yeah, just follow him, and we'll try and commandeer some tables inside, preferably. So yeah, on the first floor, I'm told. So so yeah, if you want to continue the conversation, if you want to do a bit of networking or come for a pint, then we'd be glad to see you there. And thank you very much again.